What's up, Larry? How are you, man?
How are you? Thanks
Oh,
for having me.
doing wonderful. It's such a pleasure to welcome you here to the Music Mania podcast, Larry. This is truly cool. Hey, it's December. You've got a new Christmas single out. It's just perfect. I'm just starting to crank up the Christmas songs. I always say December 1st is about the time for me. Now, I know some people like to crank them a little earlier, and that's okay, especially in the case of your new single. But when do you usually start bringing out the Christmas stuff, man?
I don't bring it out until right about now. This week
Yeah.
after, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, frankly, I'm under a lot of pressure now to deliver a Christmas tree earlier than I normally would into the house. So we'll probably pick up a tree this weekend and start decorating over the course of the next week or so. But
Well,
Christmas songs, I'll start a little earlier, maybe Thanksgiving week.
there you go. You can't argue with that. And you guys, the High Plains Drifters, by the way, you guys are really bringing the cheer this year with the holiday single, Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back. I love the song. It has this just real kind of tongue in cheek, upbeat nature to it. And I think it's something we need right now. You know, Christmas songs that are, that we've heard for so many years and some have become classics. This one I really enjoyed. It just kind of brought a smile to my face. So kind of talk about how this all came about and sort of the idea behind the song is sort of a booze inspired Christmas here. And you know what? This makes me feel better because not everybody's Christmas is like a Norman Rockwell painting. Some of ours are a little dysfunctional.
Oh,
So
it's funny you say that. They're not all Norman Rockwell paintings, although I think we all have those fantasies. And you always think you'll write that kind of a Christmas song, like White Christmas or something, which is more like in the Norman Rockwell vein. This one did grow out of not so much out of heavy drinking, but out of an unforeseeable, explosive, drama-filled Christmas day with visiting family. My side of the family, not my wife's, to be clear. She'll watch this interview. I'm very clear. It was the Studnicky family. And something happened. I'm not going to go into the details. There was a blow up, emotions, tempers flared. And I woke up the next morning. Most people were still in bed. It was early morning. I'm puttering around the kitchen making coffee. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, first 3 or 4 lines of the song just popped into my head out of nowhere. Lyrics and melody, all there. I've been drinking way too much this Christmas. My friends all want to know the reason why. I've been drinking way too much this Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And I sat back and I went, I like that. Now, where do I go with it? And why am I, if I'm the narrator, why am I drinking? And I didn't want to relate it to, a little family contretemps or whatever. So I thought to myself, well, maybe, what could have gone wrong? Well, somewhere came this notion that Santa stole my girlfriend. And I thought that worked. I wasn't sure if anyone had done a song with that angle yet. So I just started writing the lyrics along those lines and finished them over the course of the next couple of weeks.
and this is actually your guys' second holiday track, correct? You had one called
It
Get
is.
Me
It's
Home by
weird.
Christmas Eve.
It's very weird. It was the first song that we put the whole band into the studio for on what's going to be our second album, and this band came to life on a Christmas single, which I said to my wife, it'll just be the one song. I have this Christmas song rattling around in my head, and I got to get it out. And I'm going to work with a couple of really talented musicians I know. And I promise not to spend too much money. And I promise not to keep recording unless it gets on the radio. And we got that first track on radio, and it's been on radio to a limited extent for a few years now. And so I basically told my wife, you're screwed. I'm going to record a whole album now. And so that we did start with a Christmas song last time around. Yeah.
Well, for people that aren't familiar with the High Plains Drifters, kind of take us to the genesis of that, because you guys, as I understand, are good friends. And just tell us how this kind of project came about, because this is like some real music industry veterans here, and there's a lot going on here. So set the scene.
I'm like I'm the least professional veteran. I mean, my roots in the music industry are as an entertainment industry lawyer back in the 90s. I was working at one of the New York music law firms. I worked with everybody from Suge Knight and LL Cool J to my partners were handling Mary J. Blige at the time. We had a ton of really talented urban producers, singers, songwriters. We represented DreamWorks Records for a while. So I was always writing songs in my head, but I wasn't a musician at the time. I got together with John Makem, who I had known for ages. I've known John probably for 25 years now. He's a very talented indie rock singer-songwriter in his own right, under a band name Binge, and then under his own solo name, never signed, but really good material, licensed a lot of stuff to various television shows. And I sat down over dinner one night with John and a guy named Charles Studnicky, who at the time was assistant musical director for Jersey Boys on Broadway, was a child prodigy on keyboards, had conducted the New York Pops at like age 20, super talented guys. And I asked them if they'd work with me on this one Christmas song. The first one was called Get Me Home by Christmas Eve. We knocked that out. Our original rhythm section were the rhythm section from Jersey Boys on Broadway. A couple of brothers, pretty well-known guys, Kevin Dow and Ken Dow, guys who had been a rhythm section since they were 12. That's about as tight and solid as you're going to find in the industry. But they were on Broadway, or at least back then. Broadway is only dark on Mondays. Now Broadway is permanently dark until the vaccine comes. It's hard enough with a band of older guys with wives and kids getting everyone to the studio. It's super hard if your rhythm section's only free one night a week. So eventually we transitioned to a new rhythm section. Second half of that album was Kyle Cassell on drums and Dave Richards on bass. And over the course of the last half of album one, I think we gelled as a band. And after a little bit of a hiatus, we started the second record this summer.
Well, the first one was self-titled, correct? And it's out now. You can get it on all the digital platforms. I was just perusing it on Spotify, so it's definitely there. And I'm assuming it's on all the digital platforms as well. So
yeah, it's on all the streaming services. Yep. Again, not very well known. We are, up until this song "Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back," we've been 100%. Self-produced, self-recorded, released, mixed. We have our own marketing and promotion guys. We lucked out with this song. I've got one of my former law partners is at Universal Music. He's not on the label side. He's on the business side, but he sent this single unbeknownst to me to some people at Universal Distribution on the West Coast, and they loved it, and they offered to help us get it out. So it's getting a little bit wider distribution than we could pull off on our own.
Well, I know this is a bit of a faux pas, but A Perfect World 2021, what's that look like for you guys?
There's no faux pas there. I mean, we're pretty well into album 2, 3 songs in the can, 3 in a demo phase where we're ready to tee them up and put the band in the studio and record those. We've got the other 6 picked out. So I'd like to think that we finish the record, mixing and everything by the end of Q1, release it in Q2, get immediately nominated for Grammys before we all croak. We're older guys and we can't sit around waiting 20, 25 years for that. Who knows? I mean, for all I know, we're putting out album 2 on our own again. There's no promise from Universal that they're doing anything for us. They picked up the single. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a much stronger and more focused record than album 1. So we'll see.
Well, looking forward to that for sure, Larry. We got to go back to the single "Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back," because as I read, this could be, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's a little bit of a connection here. Maybe there's a little bit of influence that occurred in your personal life that involved former an actor Christopher Reeve. Is this true? Did I read this? And is this
you read this right? But it didn't so much influence this song.
Okay,
it cropped up when the whole idea is, Santa stole my girlfriend, and someone asked me over the course of another interview, did anyone ever try to steal your girlfriend? And the short answer is, the most famous girlfriend stealing incident in my life was the night that I wandered off from my girlfriend's side to grab a round of drinks and came back. Now, mind you, I'm sitting down. You can't see. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4.5". I'm not bulky, but I'm a big guy.
Sure.
I come, and I'm normally bigger than most guys that are hitting on my girlfriend when I've made the mistake of going to the bar, to the bathroom, right? So I come walking back up with a couple of drinks, and I'm about 10 feet away, and I see another really big guy talking to my girlfriend. And as I get closer, I realize it's Christopher Reeve in the era where he is still Superman, and he's hitting on my girlfriend. And so what can you do? You try to be cool. I walked up, I stood a little bit behind her and handed her the drink, and he saw me do that, and he leans in and he goes, He goes, "Hi, Chris Reeve," and I go, "Hi, Larry Studnicky." And in my head, I'm going, "F you, Superman, get the hell out of here. You have your own Lois Lane, leave mine alone." But you can't do any of that because he's Superman. So my girlfriend, thank God, my girlfriend slid her arm through mine. She did the right thing. And he could tell then that I wasn't just some guy buying her a drink. We were a couple, and he excused himself and flew off. So
that's sort of one of those. That's an awesome story, and it's one of those that I've my girlfriend and I often kind of put ourselves in situations like this. Well, what if it was this person? For her, I think it's Nikki Sixx from Mötley Crüe. Okay, so
I torture my wife by telling her, and this actually ties into album one. I go, you have no one to fear except Jennifer Aniston. I'm obsessed with her. She's gorgeous. She's a phenomenal comedian, and she's worth over $100 million. What's not to love?
At some point, there's a level of acceptance that sets in there, and everybody's kind of, maybe you call it a get out of jail free card. And not that it ever comes to that, because, us guys, we like to live in this hypothetical world, and, I guess that's where we'll stay. But Larry, I got to ask you about kind of some of your musical influences, because you talked about working in the industry, on the business side, on the law side. You worked with a lot of hip hop artists and urban artists, but what is kind of your background musically growing up? What are you listening to?
I'm not a child of the 60s. That would be probably incorrect to say, although the earliest pop music that I was aware of as a little kid were the Beatles, the Stones, and the rest of the groups for me, it was probably the second half of the 60s. So I probably came of age musically in the 70s, and influences or the bands that I loved would be, on the one hand, on one side of the spectrum, you'd have the Eagles, America, the Marshall Tucker Band, some of the other Southern rock bands. And then later that decade, thank God, they came, the Ramones and Blondie and Talking Heads and the whole punk and new wave movement. In between, we had that horrible period of disco, which just drove me up a wall. And some of those schizophrenic influences are also on our first album. We were branded, the press branded us Americana, and that's a fair characterization of a handful of songs on the record. But then you take a song like First Amendment Blues, which is a pop punk song, where the day I sang it to Charles Zarnecki, who produced it, I said, all right, Charles, there's the song. I sang it. I said, this is a Ramones song. Produce it like a Ramones song. And he and John Maycomb came back with a demo about a week or two later. I went, that's perfect, man. That's a Ramones song,
Well, when you're sitting there for all these years, and you're wearing a suit, and you're dealing with artists on the business side, and you're, the music industry is so vast, and there's so many different areas, and you always hear about how all the different cogs and the things that occur on the business side of things. Did you ever see yourself fronting a band?
No, not at all. Honestly, yes, in my wildest fantasies, I would see it, but I never thought it would become real, because I was told I couldn't sing growing up. I wasn't let in. I'm a Catholic school kid. I wasn't let into the church choir. I had one feeble audition for one of the shows in law school, and didn't make the cut there. And other than, singing in my car, in my shower, like people do, I never thought I'd sing. And on the first 4 songs of our debut album, I did not sing. And then we started to do a song called Summer Girl. And I said, John Macomb's going to be singing this one. And Charles Zarnecki said, no, he's not. You're going to sing it. I said, I can't sing, man. He goes, you can sing this song. Trust me, you can sing this song. It's like a storyteller kind of song. It's more spoken than sung, and you can do it. It took, we must have done 40 or 50 vocal takes to get enough usable crap, and I mean crap, for Charles to comp a decent vocal on me. But it made it on the radio. So I sat back and I said, well, I must not suck quite as much as I thought I sucked. And then it fortuitously, coincidentally, I was giving a talk to about a room full of about 200 or 300 people in Manhattan on the subject of financing alternatives for startup companies. And in the audience was a woman named Maria Fattore, who's a former professional opera singer. And she emailed me afterwards and said, thanks, great talk, learned a lot. And I looked at her signature block and I saw that she was a voice coach. And I wrote her back and said, I have a side life in music. Would you listen to some stuff for me? And I sent her that song. And she emailed me back and said, "You have the notes, but you don't know how to sing." I said, "I know I don't know how to sing." And she trained me for about 6 months. And since then I've been singing everything. So it was, for me, it was incredible. It was an amazing thing to go through, because I never thought I'd sing.
I'm a fan of it. I want to urge all of our listeners to check out the single "Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back." It's available on all digital platforms. And what is the best way for people to follow you guys? I assume Facebook, Twitter, kind of how do we get to you?
Twitter and Instagram at HPD, High Plains Drift, HPD Music. Facebook, ignore Facebook for now. Look for the website, High Plains Drifters, hyphenated, high-plains-drifters, hyphenated.com. I think most people are finding us on Spotify more than anywhere else. We're on all the streaming services, but Spotify is where we're getting all the plays. So at HPD Music on Instagram and Twitter, Spotify, and highplainsdrifters.com, hyphenated.
Well, that is wonderful, Larry. It's been such a pleasure. And I tell you, Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back, it has earned its place on any holiday playlist, mine for sure. Thank you so much, my friend. Continued success, and have a great 2021, brother.
I'm really grateful to you for saying that. It means a lot to little old acts like us to get any kind of attention. You've been very kind. Thank you.
You guys are awesome. I love the stuff. And I've had such a good time going back and checking out the first album. Cannot wait for the second as well. So good things in the future. Good time ahead.
I hope we'll deliver for you. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.